Hi. My name's Brian Peace, and I'm going to be starting this series talking about my journey through gastric bypass surgery, the lead up to the procedure, the things I have to do to get ready for it, the procedure itself, and the post op experience. Currently, we're looking at maybe a July, August area for the procedure, but subject to change depending on my luck, fate, and ability to make various appointments. Uh, I am 49 years old. I'll be 50 in November. Uh, my current weight is 226 pounds. My heaviest weight, my top weight was 235. I've been working on getting that down because, reasons. Um, my largest pant size was 50 in the waist and triple X t shirts. That's a little much, a little more than I'm comfortable with anyway. Why am I doing gastric bypass surgery? I'll get into the ins and outs of why I chose that one over gastric sleeve, or any other procedure in a later video. But the reason why I'm considering surgery in the first place is I've kind of struggled with my weight most of my life. Uh, when I was very young, as a toddler, I was a chunky baby. Um, then as I got more active and got a little older, as I was growing, I thinned out a little bit. And then around middle school, I started really, really gaining weight. I was bullied a lot, and this is in the 70s, 80s period where getting bullied oftentimes meant straight up being beaten up, um, which was not a ton of fun for me, as you might imagine. Uh, a lot of my weight issues come with bone density. You can probably see that I have, very thick, fat hands and thick arms. Not a lot of it's muscle or fat. A gigantic noggin. Um, I've had x-rays done, and doctors have said that yes, my bone density contributes to the weight. Not all of it. You can see there's a significant amount of heft there too. Uh, I'm generically wide framed. I'm just a large person by nature. My father was large, um, and a variety of people in my family were also a little hefty. Uh, so that was whenever I was young. I was always considered to be a healthy weight, quote unquote. Um, but right around my teenage years, I really started to get large right around middle, like I said, right around middle school. And freshman year of high school, I reached a crisis point where I had to lose weight. So around the beginning of ninth grade, I started just kind of nickel and diming my way into bad habits. I stopped eating breakfast altogether. I was never much of a breakfast person anyway, maybe a snack or something. I was never, never felt good after I ate breakfast. But my lunchtime was when I started eating, usually around 11 or 12 o'clock. Well, my mom would give me lunch money at school, and to try to head off, partially to try to head off the worst of the bullying behavior, I would just give away my lunch money to buy cokes and such for um, friends or people who tolerated me but were kind of harsh toward me, and it would decrease those issues somewhat. So I just stopped eating lunch altogether. The only meal I had was supper time, and then I turned 16, and I got my car and I started being away from home a lot. Also, whenever I was 15, I had a lot of friends in the neighborhood, and I would leave home and not come back until dark. And I would tell my mom that I'd eaten at their house, and I would tell my friends that I was going to eat at home, and I just would straight up not eat some days. I got to the point in my late freshman year of high school where and early sophomore year of high school, where I just wouldn't eat for days at a time. Um, I went over to a friend's house one time at the big crisis point of it, and I passed out. I just fainted on the bed. And at that point, my best friend uh, helped pull me up off the ground and said, "All right, Brian, when was the last time you had something to eat?" I said, "Oh, Thursday, I think," because that was the last meal I could remember. And she said, "It's Tuesday, right?" So she forced me to eat some trail mix because it was the first thing she could grab her hands on. And I ate a little bit, and at that point realized that perhaps I might have gone a little overboard. My doctor said that I was unhealthy thin at the point. I was at my lightest I think I've ever been in my life, other than when I was growing up, of course. Once I reached my full height, the lightest I'd ever been was 170 pounds, and I was bone thin. And you can see it in pictures from whenever I was in high school that I was just scary thin. You could see my ribs, you could see the bones in my arms and legs. Uh, I tried to be active. I tried to get on the basketball team, on the football team. The problem is, I also have joint issues. I have malformed hips, where where the leg meets the hip socket, I have a ridge that over the years is kind of rubbed, but I also can't get my knees to come together because of it. And running was always difficult for me. Even before the pain set in, even before I really realized I had issues, I ran awkwardly, and so it took me more effort than most people to run, and I was never capable of being as fast as anyone, even at my healthiest. Uh, so running was always kind of an issue. So more sports require you to run, so I could never quite make it onto a sports team because they said I was just too slow. As a young adult, I started gaining weight again, and I started becoming very lethargic and becoming, just easily confused. And I went for some medical tests, and it turns out I have Hashimoto's thyroiditis, an autoimmune disease that causes hypothyroidism. Basically, my body thinks that my thyroid gland, my thyroid glands are invasive tissues, and my body has done its level best to try to kill that gland. Um, so I have to take Synthroid, synthetic thyroid hormone, and it does its job for the most part, but I still suffer from the weight gain issues that come along with that. And along with that, my stasis weight became about 250, 260. I gradually, as my thyroid decreased in function and I had to increase the medication, my weight consistently gained until I reached the point where I'm at now, where the last 10, 15 years, my thyroid hasn't gotten any worse. I currently take about 150 micrograms of Synthroid, and that's been static for ages. So I've reached a stasis point with my weight, or I had. My joint issues increased. I tried to go to a gym and explain my situation to them, explained that my knees ground and my ankles locked a lot. My physical therapist had told me, you cannot do a lot of leg exercises. If you do, you will wind up on a cane. And they put me with a lot of weight, a lot of exercises, and they said, this isn't extremely weight bearing, so you should be fine. And I wasn't. I wound up on a cane for weeks until I was able to walk normally again. To this day, I still can't handle steps very well. I'm not capable of going up and down steps extraordinarily well. If I'm going long distances, I have to take a cane with me because I'm going to end up needing it at some point. On a good day, I can walk more or less okay. On a bad day, I have to park as close to the place as possible. I have a handicap tag. I tend to not use it because I just don't like taking up spaces that people with heart conditions or people with serious conditions need, and I only use it whenever I'm in a place where I know just walking into the store I'm going to have issues, much less walking back out. So now that I'm nearing 50, in the last 10 years, I started having more and more and more issues. Um, a lot of the time over the course of my life, ever since I was a teenager, I struggled with depression and mood swing issues, and I dealt with a lot of depression and kind of manic issues when I was a teenager, which then, after the hypothyroidism kicked in, it turned more into what you would call hypomania, where you feel kind of invulnerable. And a lot of mine lends toward excessive spending, where I feel like I can rationalize myself into spending the money on something that I shouldn't be spending the money on. And then once that comes down, I'm like, what have I done to myself? Crap. So, but the main thing is I suffer from extreme suicidal levels of depression. So I was diagnosed in the last 5 years with bipolar type 2, which the doctor said is characterized by severe depression and occasional hypomania, which is characterized by moderate feelings of not invulnerability, but a skewed sense of what you can and can't accomplish. Um, so I started taking medications for that, mood stabilizers. The mood stabilizers, one of the lovely side effects of that is it caused my stasis weight to get closer to 320, 325. Um, so now, no matter, I eat the same amount I ate in my 20s, in my 30s, and in my 40s, and I'm gaining weight from that amount of food. I've tried over the decades to reduce my intake of food, but that's an issue in and of itself, which I have a family history of overeating. I spent my entire life, my father was overweight, and one of the only things that I could do to please him was to clean my plate and even ask for seconds. He thought that was awesome. He thought that was great, and it was the main praise I got as a kid from him because he wasn't very much on praise. Um, my current diet, I gave it to the dietitian whenever I went in to become pre-certified for the surgery, and she said my current diet is about common with most people. And the issue that I have though is that I'm typically either hungry or so full I hate myself. I don't have that thing that most normal people have where I feel full and satiated. I never have that feeling. I eat an amount of food where I know that technically I should be satisfied, and I stop because one of the prevailing notions is if you chew slowly, eat your food normally, and then stop at a relatively normal point, eventually the food will settle in your stomach and you'll feel satiated. I never do. I'm either hungry and miserable or overly full and miserable. And there's like a very fine line between the two, and I can't tell when I'm passing over that line. One of the benefits of this particular surgery is that it changes your body chemistry. There's a certain chemical that's released that tells your body I am full. And one of the benefits of this surgery is it kind of recalibrates your body so that you actually have that feeling. Over the last few years, we bought a fixer upper house and we've been doing repairs on it. And about 5 years ago, I was able to get down on the floor and do flooring and do a lot of the work around the house. And during one of those episodes of high activity, I pulled something in my back and damaged my hip further. So I went back to check on that, and they said, "Oh, by the way, you now have arthritis in your hips." So doing the surgery would still not help. And now I'm in a situation where I would like to be more active, but being active causes pain. But I can only alleviate a lot of the pain by losing weight and taking the weight off my hips. I'm in a catch-22. I'm damned if I do, damned if I don't. So I'm trying to be more active. I have a regimen that I do now. It's not extreme, but it's more activity than I've had over the last 2 or 3 years. Uh, so that's where I'm at right now. Future videos, we'll discuss insurance situations, scheduling issues, what I have to do to change my diet. If you have anything specific you would like for me to cover, note it in the comments below. Like and subscribe so you can keep track of future videos. And see ya.